Hello dear crypto friends. So today we are of course again taking a look at Bitcoin and the crypto market as every time and trying to understand why it's still not rising. It started rising yesterday. Here's the daily chart and there was a really nice green candle yesterday, but now today again dumps. What the hell is going on? This was looking pretty good and now we have dumps. As you can see, I'm again using the Bollinger Band in the daily chart because I think also in the daily chart is a quite useful tool. And we see the band is really narrow, has become really narrow, as was the case here, as was also the case here. So that means the probability for a breakout to either the upside or the downside is really high. And I think the probability for a break to the upside is higher than a break to the downside. Why do I think that? Well, friends, because what Bitcoin normally likes to do, it likes to pretend that it's going into direction. As you can see here, it pretended very convincingly that it wants to break to the upside here, right? Like, oh, I'm so strong, I will break to the upside. I will break to the upside. Look, once, twice, 3, 4 times, almost 5 times testing, trying to push through the upper band and then bam, doing the exact opposite. So it does like to do that kind of stuff where it tricks you into believing it goes into one direction and then it immediately goes into the other direction. And here we have the opposite situation. So here it's pretending it's super weak and dumping and pushing multiple times to the lower Bollinger Band, all the while the band is really super narrow. So we know the probability for a breakout is extremely high. And it's pretending it's super weak, like, oh, I'm weak, I'm breaking to the downside, and then bam! I suspect it is breaking to the upside. Also, we shouldn't forget that we see something very nice. Here we have lower highs, and here we have higher highs in the RSI. So this is a bullish divergence. Not a hidden bullish divergence, but a regular bullish divergence, which means that this chart in the daily is kind of bullish. So what is happening today? Why is this nice green candle again being destroyed by stupid dumps? Why is Bitcoin not already pumping to the upside? What the hell is happening? Why is it taking so long? This is embarrassing. Well, friends, the answer is this guy here, okay? This brutal guy here, the dollar index that is just pumping like a crazy bastard. And we see how insanely strong this breakout was. It is pushing through the Bollinger Band as if it's nothing. It's pushing through the upper band like it's not even there, you see? Which is, as we know, quite a bullish sign, because normally if it pushes through the band, like here, for example, like here, then normally this is quite brutal. Normally there's a stronger push to the upside. So the dollar index is of course absolutely crazy. It is out of control, friends. It is freaking out of control. And as long as this guy here pumps, and doesn't finally start rolling over and going lower, we can forget our Bitcoin pump scenario. We can forget our Bitcoin pump scenario as long as this happens. Bitcoin can only recover and start going to the upside again, in what form ever, if it's going to be a bounce or a sustained rally, but it can only recover and go higher if the dollar index starts going lower, or at least stops pumping, because as it is now, the dollar index is completely out of control. As we can see here in the weekly picture, we have values that we haven't seen since 20 years now, and it's just continuing to climb higher. Now we do have a bearish divergence technically, so we have a higher high here than here, right? That is a higher high, but we have a lower high in the RSI, so there is a bearish divergence. But then again, friends, we shouldn't give too much on bearish divergences, because here we saw, for example, in the 90s, it was rising for a long time, made higher highs all the time, right? And lower highs in the RSI. Yes, a dump did come. There was a brutal intermediate dump, but afterwards it immediately started rallying again and kept rallying for quite a few years. So that is not good. That is not good that the dollar is pumping. On the other hand, government bond yields, especially the 2-year yields, seem to be losing traction. They seem to start rolling over and to decline, which is, of course, as we know, really good for the stock market. We see here is also a bearish divergence, right? Lower highs in the RSI, but higher highs in the price. So this is certainly not bad. And we also see, quite fascinatingly, that this upper resistance line here that has been respected since the 80s was broken for a short while, but it appears as if we are going lower, as if this was just a fake breakout. But let's see, it's too early to tell. However, the fact that the yields are starting to decline is a good sign for the stock market, okay? Now, oil is looking good. I would say this is quite nice that oil is starting to decline again. That is a really good sign. And oil is indeed making a really brutal bearish divergence. We see higher highs here in the price, lower highs in the RSI. So I think it's only a matter of time until this goes lower. And we know that the CPI is also very high because of high gasoline prices, right? So if oil starts going lower, that means gasoline prices will also come down again. And that in turn, of course, means, friends, what? This means that inflation is getting lower, and this means that the Fed at some point will pivot and go away from their tightening monetary policy and stop raising interest rates. But when this will be, of course, we don't know. Will it be already for the meeting on the 27th of July, or will it be as late as September? Friends, we don't know. But I think the aggressiveness of this downturn and of the yields, how they are going down, how fast they are going down, will determine how fast the Fed is going to pivot. But of course, right now, our biggest problem is this guy here, the dollar index, that just keeps pumping, which is of course really not a good sign. So we still have a bit of hope that it doesn't push too much higher, but currently it doesn't look too good. There is really not a big resistance anywhere. The next one is at 109.8, which is of course, again, quite a bit higher than where we are now. And the divergences, as we saw in the dollar index, they are not super trustworthy, because it can do a bearish divergence for many months and does bearish divergences all the time and still keeps going higher. So it's just looking brutal. So the dollar is looking brutal. Now, of course, that means that the Nasdaq is also dumping, because dollar pumping normally means Nasdaq dumping. So the Nasdaq is not performing really nicely. It's still in this falling wedge structure, although we of course still have the hope that this is of course a bullish structure. Falling wedges are normally bullish breakout structures, and we have lower highs in the RSI, so we have a strong hidden bullish divergence. Now the S&P is falling more than the Nasdaq. This is quite interesting. So the S&P is more eager to fall today, but considering how strongly the dollar is pumping, this is still looking okay. This is still looking okay. So the SPX is not making insane new lows. However, then of course, friends, the VIX isn't looking super amazing. The VIX looks as if like, oh yeah, we're soon breaking out here of that range and getting a spike. And a spike in the VIX means always a brutal drop in the stock market. So, you know, we have some really mixed signals. On the one hand, we have the VIX, the dollar index, all saying like, guys, Bitcoin is going lower, like Bitcoin will make new lows, or like will at least not rise, but if we are unlucky, we'll make new lows. But on the other hand, oil is falling, government bond yields are falling, which of course is the key data which drives the Fed monetary policy, right? So if that stuff is dumping, that means the Fed will pivot sometime this year. But the problem is we don't know when. Is it already in July, or is it in September? And if it is in September, friends, we know damn well how much Bitcoin can suffer until September. This is 2.5 more months. Bitcoin could really, if this continues, Bitcoin could fall even more. I mean, there's no guarantee that says that Bitcoin cannot go down lower. Okay, I mean, these are indicators. The Bollinger Band is a nice indicator that says the likelihood is higher, that it goes to the upside, because Bitcoin likes to fake out, really likes faking out, as we see quite many times here also, faking to the upside, bam, going to the downside. This is a classic Bitcoin behavior, but that is not enough to say there's a high probability that we are now going to pump. And also this divergence here, this bullish divergence, is also not strong enough. So we get some really mixed signals, friends. This is certainly not where I would say that it's looking very beautiful. So, and we know the lower band of this long-term logarithmic trend channel is still lower. So you saw it went below the band twice. So who's to say that we couldn't go here, right, to 12,800 or 13,000? It still could happen, friends. It still could happen. If the dollar index continues pumping like a crazy bastard, and if the stock market would fall lower, then it could still happen. But oil and the yields are making me optimistic that at least at some point later this year, we might finally get a switch of the Fed from tightening and raising interest rates to loosening again and basically keeping the interest rate stable or even reversing them to some degree. And that will be the time, whatever Bitcoin will do, that will be the time when at last we might be able to see some recovering prices again. Before that, I don't know if that can happen. I don't know. We need a big surprise. We would need a very big positive surprise for a rally from here onwards. A really big one. Like really big stuff would need to happen. The Fed would need to say, guys, at the meeting in July, hey guys, we are not raising the interest rates anymore. Like we are not raising at all. If that would happen at the meeting in late July, friends, you can be sure we would get massive pumps in the stock market and massive pumps everywhere. But we, of course, cannot count on that, okay? We cannot count on that. So we might see still a bit ugly price action until at some point finally the dollar index falls and stocks start pumping, and that's the time when we can get recovering prices. That's my view for today. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, I would be glad if you would like this video and maybe even subscribe to this channel, because I'm doing daily updates on Bitcoin and the crypto market, and we are trying to understand what Bitcoin is probably going to do. And as always, unfortunately, I cannot see the future. I will always talk in probabilities because that's the nature of this quantum universe in which we live. Have a nice day, friends, and see you in the next video tomorrow. Bye!